Term Snowmageddon, Snowpocalypse, Snowzilla even, may have been coined actually in Canada. And Canada is suffering that right now. In the last 8 hours, we're having intermittent power surges at this point where we're at even though we're not in the province of Nova Scotia. They're in a state of emergency. One local area, regional area, Cape Breton. And we're talking feet. 4 and 5 feet, 6 feet reported in some areas, 25 feet with blowing snow and drifting, covering houses. It's put emergency services at a standstill, and but a lot can happen. So if everything is shut down for, let's say 10 hours, main arterial roads will start to open up as things let up, and but that means that you are on your own. Are you ready for it? We're going to cover a little bit of that here in this show. Don't think you need a pen and paper on this one, but feel free as always. We're going to provide some links in the show notes. Stick around. This will be an educational one.
You are now tuned in to
An informed state of mind. The main takeaway is that this is not going to happen tonight. 2009, I made the decision to get out. Then we got out. Hey folks, welcome back. Informed State of Mind. Isom's here to let you know that we got some big problems up here in eastern Canada. Atlantic Canada just got state of emergency, hit with a massive snowmageddon snowstorm and dumping a lot of snow in a short period of time. We're talking 4, 5, 6 feet in some locations have been reported. 25 feet with drifting snow, burying houses. Like I said, that's pretty incredible. Shutting down the entire region, state of emergency. And what that does for a particular region is it allows them to not have to kind of stay within the municipal rules, for instance, on procurement of services. They can go out and say, we will pay the gas or whatever it takes to get anyone and everyone who has something they can assist with this emergency. Just call us and you're in, right? It's whatever, all hands on deck. We need to get out of this emergency. And so, like I said, that's where they're at right now. Probably a good Cape Breton again was where it is at, and it's probably something that most people just they see what have you, think probably won't happen to us, right? But there's a lot of places that it is happening to them now. We are having a shift in the climate. And so, like I said, we were seeing these problems, we're not seeing them, and now they're showing up, shifted to someplace else. And again, I say what you will about global warming, we won't kind of get into that discussion, I don't think, ever on the channel, just because it's such a touchy subject. But I look at it as a climate shift. Our climate has shifted everywhere on the globe. So I think that's something to be said for that. And again, you're going to start experiencing weather phenomenon that you've never experienced before. So it is something to consider. The number one thing that we always want to talk about is, are you prepared for such an event? One of the things that we can look back to, of course, is simple things like, for instance, looking at readiness, right? So a 72-hour kit. FEMA, I think, in the United States has a pretty good list, comprehensive list, and as many other, certainly, government entities will always have some type of 72-hour emergency kit, a home emergency kit, vehicle emergency kit, lots of different lists. They're out there, not hard to find. I find that, I still talk to people and I'll randomly ask, because I'm thinking about it. Hey, do you got an emergency kit at home? Basically, everything's in one place. Well, no, we know that we got everything kind of kicking around the house or whatever. And I said, well, what about your vehicle? Well, I've got a jack and a spare tire and there's a fire extinguisher in there, and there might be a first aid kit. There might be a first aid kit in a hot trunk of a car. There might be a first aid kit that probably needs to be looked at, especially if you're just not sure. So these are the other things. It's not necessarily to have a 72-hour kit, but keep it maintained. Look into it. Have something set up in your calendar to guarantee yourself to go through it, quarterly, for instance, or at least biannually, right? Twice a year, you're going to go through that, right? Which is important. Going over it with any friends, family, relatives, anybody else that's going to be in part of your plan, kids, spouses, whatever the case is. Say, hey, we're all going to sit down at the kitchen table. Tonight we're going to use it. We're going to shut the hydro off and we're going to actually live out of this kit. Can we do it? You're going to find out what you're missing in a hurry, right? So it's important to do that. And if you can put it in a transportable, waterproof container, right? Like a Pelican case would be just freaking ideal, right? But I mean, a Rubbermaid tote, anything of that nature, and literally put it in there. Don't touch it. If you have to borrow from it, but remember to put it back immediately. The moment you can, put that back, right? Restock that up there. Also making sure that you rotate anything that's in that kit that needs to be rotated or that should be rotated. Any kind of perishable, non-perishable food, I should say, water, anything to that nature. Now, you might say, well, I'm in a city and it's under water pressure and this should last for quite a while. And in some cases, it could last up to 12 hours. If it's such a widespread issue, like a cyber attack or anything like that, your system might be down for 3 days, maybe down even more before they can actually get it back online. I guarantee you this, in any particular case where there is a constraint on that system for whatever reason, they're going to get the core going first, right? And if you're on the outside suburbs, for instance, or anything like that, you're going to be last on the list. I promise that's exactly how that's going to run. So again, even with snowstorms and so on and so forth, flooding, anything like that, flooding, well, that's a whole different beast, isn't it? Hurricanes where there's houses have been, just taken down, tornadoes and such like that. And that's something different altogether. But if you need to get out ahead of time, which most will recommend, hey, we've got an incoming hurricane, you need to get out. This is where you grab that kit and some bug out bags, for instance. And these bug out bags are going to carry extra clothing, medications, anything like that, spare medications if you can put it in there. If you can't, go to a pharmacy, ask even if you say I'm going on vacation, and I don't think I'm going to be down in that area for quite some time. I need to be able to have an extra one in case I lose it in the luggage, something like that. Normally, you can get an extra month supply, or even if you ask for another 10 days of that supply. Use that and rotate that out with your regular medications now, right? So that you do have one that's in there, right? And this is where you can go back to looking at your kits quarterly, which is good. Making sure that you inform loved ones. Hey, if something happens in my region, I know that you're 200 miles north of us. You're one of our destinations to bug out to, letting them know this is part of the plan, that they're okay with the plan, and again, that they're well rehearsed on what's going to take place as well, and maybe vice versa, right? Use that network, and so expand that network the best you can. Sometimes it's okay if you want to go to the other side of town because hydro's out there, and you can go to a friends, relatives, or whatever the case is, and that same thing. But if you can take a bug out bag, or whichever, and say, hey, look, we got no time. We just want to grab the stuff and go. Forest fire comes to mind. You've hung in as long as you can. People will say, well, we've always got time to pack up some stuff. And that could be true, but you can take away a lot of thinking and that may be impaired from certainly the emergency that's taking place around you, because this is not a normal thing, right? So again, having those things in a bag, anything to that nature would assist really, really well. Making sure that everybody's got flashlights, maybe some cash in that bag. If you've got babies, making sure that they've got everything they're going to need. And again, going back to that medication, don't forget prescription glasses, maybe an extra set of glasses for that individual. There could be a lot of chaos when you're trying to leave, and it might be absently left behind if it's not something they wear all the time, or like I say, it might be something that gets damaged along the way, and hey, that person really requires those. Hearing aids, stuff like that, making sure you got extra batteries for that, something to look at as well. Fire extinguishers. So you can put fire extinguishers in your vehicles. You can also put those certainly in your home. I would suggest each floor gets one. And again, checking those out like you would check out your fire alarms and CO2 detectors, and making sure that everything's operating in that sense as well. Make sure that those are always operating, right? So that's also something that because you might have everything lost in the house, or everything might be, the power might be out, for instance. But like I said, so most of these other items will want a battery backup power, and so they'll let you know if there's a problem inside your house because you're sheltering in place, for instance. And it just gives you a bit of warning on maybe how you can safeguard against a potential, CO2 issue. You might be able to open up windows and doors and so on. Speaking about windows and doors and the potential of having to seal those doors, having the plastic sheeting, for instance, duct tape, all these things to combat a CBRN event or a CBRNE event, and those are certainly something that you want to take care of. Again, we're looking at CBRN, a chemical, biological, radioactive, nuclear, and explosive, basically high-grade explosions is what we're talking about there. So when we're combating, you can go get free courses on that too, by the way. So CBRNE courses, you can get those. Most governments will offer those free of charge. And I always suggest people have a look at that, right? It won't hurt. First aid kits are something that I think that most people kind of overlook. They say, hey, we got this box. We got it for Christmas one year. We went out and purposely bought it when we bought the house. Or we came with the car, maybe, something of that nature. Some of these kits that you pick up, maybe not very comprehensive in the sense of what actually they have going for them inside of it. What I'm thinking about in my mind is an 8-inch by, 8-inch by 10-inch box, perhaps, anything like that. It's quite minimal. It's got quite a bit to mitigate some minor injuries, but anything major. We carry trauma kits in both vehicles. Also, we've got one for when we go out camping, and we've also got one, it's in the house, and quite extensive. And we've got a lot of supplies that we've rotated around, which makes us feel a little bit better that we know we've got it just in case. And, we haven't had to get into the trauma kits too terribly much. There's been times in my life where I've utilized the trauma kits for motor vehicle collisions that I've come across or emergencies I come across out in the public. True story, was at a department store. And a guy was out dealing with something with his battery, and I heard like a bang go off behind me. Honestly, I ducked because I thought it was a shot fired, and turned around, and it was a guy with his hood up, and he was holding his face and his eyes. Immediately, I knew that his battery had exploded. Because of the fact that I had the trauma kit in the back, which also was water with that, I could go off and I could render assistance with him. Of course, calling 911 right away and making sure that we get emergency services on the roll, but was able to flush his eyes and keep flushing his eyes until we could get him into that store to continue to flush his eyes. And again, relaying and having somebody at the front door to wait for the ambulance to come, so or fire services, depending on who was going to arrive first, and then get them back into where we were. And everything ended off fairly well for him. So like I said, I don't think there was any long-term effect with that. Again, hydrogen, builds up around a battery, and a simple spark, boom, there we go. And of course, that battery acid can get into your eyes and cause quite a bit of problems. So we're looking at back to the kit again, matches, any way of being able to create fire. We're going to cover off those 4 pillars of survival, talking about fire, water, shelter, and food. And again, fire being warmth, right? So like I said, if it's not necessarily fire, but some way of keeping warm, okay, we want to make sure that's covered off. And again, we also have the 4 pillars based on the rule of threes, right? So we got 3 minutes without oxygen, and we've got 3 hours without adequate shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and 3 months without companionship. And that pretty much covers the rule of threes. And we want to be able to incorporate all those different things, right? And again, that's a guideline, not necessarily a rule, right? So, but it is called the rule of threes. So again, going back to the things that you want to keep in there: sleeping bags, warm blankets for each person. Consider additional bedding if you live in cold weather climates like we do. Most people don't have to consider it; they just understand it. But you'd be surprised. People will venture out onto highways and have nothing as far as a backup, and they could be sitting there for some time. So that's, and again, vehicles do not retain warmth very well at all. All right, within 5 to 10 minutes, you will already start to feel that temperature decrease, and it will get to the point where you won't have the wind factor, but you'll experience that deep cold. And I've been there, and it's not fun. So again, looking at feminine supplies, personal hygiene items like hand sanitizer, shampoo, stuff like that. If this is things that you want to keep in your kit, keep that in your kit. Anything that's important to you, individualize it. And again, if everybody has to have one of these bins, why not, right? Again, get everybody on the kitchen table to say, tonight's the night, we're going to practice this. We're going to live out of these kits for the night, so that we know, again, what we're missing, and that everybody is well versed with it, at least has a shadow of an idea what's going on. So then in 6, 7, 8 months down the road, 2 years down the road, hey, we already know because we practice this once a month, right? And we know our kits together because we check it quarterly, we check it, twice a year, we check it at least annually, right? Making sure that everything is good in that sense too. So keeping things like, again, freeze-dried food, which is great. It cuts down on having to have dishes and such, and it works out pretty well, but you still need a way to be able to boil that water, right? So again, some kind of metal container, and again, some water. A cook system. If you can get a little cook stove, for instance, that works off of propane or a biofuel of some sort, that's something that we have in our kit, and we have that in our camp kits, of course, and so on. So we've also got a wood stove at our house too, and the garage, like I said, is pretty well set up for if anything else goes wrong or the house is no good anymore. Our garage is the place we're probably going to end up going, and we've got a room in the garage for the ability to store everybody for sleeping and what have you, to give people privacy for using the bathroom, for instance. Speaking of bathroom, paper towels and toilet paper, baby wipes, for instance, anything like that, to be able to manage those things. Even a small bottle of bleach wouldn't hurt to put in there for a disinfectant of general surrounding and areas. If somebody's gotten sick in the vehicle, we're not going to be washing that out with bleach right away, certainly, but at some particular time during our trip, we might want to be able to disinfect that. And like I said, that's something to keep in there. And it's also good for being able to sanitize water to make it easier to drink. But hopefully you've got some tablets in there, water purification tablets, anything of that nature that'll make it a little bit easier if you can't take the time to boil water and what have you. Again, you say, oh, come on, there's just no way we're going to run out of water. We'll just grab some at a gas station. What if that gas station's out? What if the entire region's out? We say, well, what if, right? And we'll consider everything. That's the idea. Why not? What does it absolutely hurt you? It doesn't. It only will assist you, right? So that's the way to look at it. An extra cell phone, right? An extra cell phone battery, chargers. These are the type of things that we have in our kits as well, right? So, we may not have a plan set up on that phone. Maybe the plan's not working. We're hoping that maybe 911 services work so that at least we can tell somebody, hey, this is where we are. We're in trouble. They might not be able to come right away, but they'll be able to say, okay, we know there's people there, right? And you can say, unless I call you back, this is where we are. We're not moving, okay? And if you're going to move, call them back and say, hey, we're moving. If you can get signal and, of course, have the power to do that. Flashlight and extra batteries. Headlamps are huge, okay? Now, headlamps keep your hands free. Okay, the best you can. You're going to need those, right? Walking, whatever the case is, rummaging through things. You need two hands to do that. Dealing with small kids and it's nighttime. Again, this only makes sense to be able to have extra flashlights. And I'm going to say headlamps for everyone in the family for sure in that bug out bag, guaranteed. If you're not leaving the house, if you are leaving the house, either way, they're right there. And you can certainly double down on some of those things. Your major first aid kit you take out of the house, or your 72-hour kit you take out of the house, which includes your first aid kit. Everything is in there, so you can just grab it and go, right? Forest fire, that's the thing that comes to my mind when I'm talking about these things. Whistle the signal for help. I probably was the only officer in my entire platoon that actually carried a whistle on duty. Why? Because whistles work, right? You've never seen so many people on the street stop in a hurry and turn around and look right at you. So what does a whistle mean? In everyday life, we hear a whistle, right? It's a stop, or stop. And then we take that from referees and stuff like that in sports. And so, like I said, it works quite well. So people even quiet down when they hear that because they're like, hey, what's going on, right? So like I said, you can tell people, get out of your road. You're on the move. Everybody else might not know what's going on, but and you want to get to where you got to go. Again, dust masks, for instance, to help filter contaminated air. And we want to talk about the plastic sheeting, for instance, with the duct tape. This is, again, going back to the CBRN. If you have a chemical or a biological event, maybe even a nuclear event, for instance, being able to seal off that and shelter in place in your home, there's a strategy to that. There is again, I think there's quite a few different free websites that you can get to. FEMA, I'm almost sure, has one. I'll look for that, and if I can find it, I'll put down the show notes. A free website, you can go back and you can get basically a certification or a certificate saying, hey, I'm now CBRNE aware, which is really good. And it'll give you a lot of the basics, and the takeaway from that is that you're a little bit more informed. And it's coming from a professional body. The information is good, and the course material will be good as well. It may be minimal, but like I said, it's going to give you a pretty good understanding of what you need to do. And in some cases, it might be a little bit more advanced, which is, I would say, hey, go for that wherever you can. Again, garbage bags, plastic ties for personal sanitation. This is the thing. If you've got to use something on the go in a van, a vehicle, truck, whatever the case is, and you've got a young one, but you just can't stop, well, maybe you can, use it on the go. It's just something to do. And again, the other thing is if you're in your house and your toilets aren't flushing, there's another thing, being able to do your business in a garbage bag and then tie that up and put that outdoors, right? Sanitation is going to be huge with that. Making sure that you're stocked up on bleach in the house, which is a good thing too. Maybe put a small bottle, like I said, into the kit. That wouldn't hurt at all. Again, non-sparking wrench or pliers to turn off utilities. Those are important. You may have to do that. If you're not familiar with that, you're going to be able to go to YouTube on that. Talk to your local utility company. They might be able to have, even on their website, they might have some advice on how you're going to do that. And again, go out and look at those utilities and say, hey, this is the utility here. This is what it is. In some cases, you might even be able to try it, right? Turn off your gas, then turn it back on again. Keeping in mind you got pilot lights in the house and so on and so forth. So like I said, it might be worth a visit from your local furnace guy to say, hey, I just want you to come over here for a half an hour. I want you to take through what a shutdown of my house looks like and what the startup of the house looks like and things to consider. Again, why stop short, right? So that's the thing you want to look at. And again, whatever you're bringing for food and what have you, make sure you can accommodate that. You've got a pot, a pan, or something of that nature, some way to be able to divvy that out. Again, this is why those free-dried Mountain House packets, for instance, are really good, because there's your container. It's all in one. You just need to put the boiling water in there and wait, and then off you go. But that's it. And again, those IFAKs, make sure that everybody's got an individual first aid kit in their bags as well. Okay, so you got your major trauma kit, hopefully, and make sure everybody's got something a little bit smaller they can carry with you in case you get separated, for instance. Everybody has everything they need in that bag. That's the thing to consider. Have fun with this, right? Make it a little bit more of an enjoyable thing, going through this kit and building the kit out. Everybody builds knowledge on that and confidence. So then when something happens, you're combating a couple different things. You're combating the chaos that could be happening in your own mind, that state of mind that's going to be created for everybody in that house. We want to see to that and take care of that, right? Again, local maps is also something you want to take care of in case you are new to the area. Maybe the kids are not as well versed as you are. Again, that separation aspect. Have a plan for what happens if that takes place, right? This is what's going to happen if we get separated. Here are the three different locations that you're going to, try to get to if we get to it over a certain amount of time. These are the people that you can trust. These are the people you're going to try to reach out to. Again, these are certainly important things. Making sure that you can have a pen and paper, a pad and paper, which pencil and paper, I should say, would be probably a better way of going. Only the reason is pencils, they don't fail. You can sharpen them, whatever the case is. In your bug out bags and in your takeaway kit, or certainly your get home or your getaway kit, your 72-hour kit, you could call it certainly, or your inch bag, I'm never coming home bag. Make sure that you have cutting material in there as well. I could probably put up a pretty good video in regards to everything that you would need actually for a bug out bag. There's a lot of great YouTube videos talking about that already out there. I probably don't have to reduplicate that, but go out there and purposely look for that. So like I said, and again, if you've got a radio, crank radio, which would be good. NOAA weather radio with tones and alerts and extra batteries is a smart idea for sure, and it'll keep you up to date. And if there's any information being able to put across that for that local jurisdiction or that local service area, they're going to be putting that across the radio to keep you informed, to tell you what's on the go, and whether or not you got to keep going north away from that disaster, or whether or not you can, hey, you've gone probably far enough, just hang on, we're getting things towards back to normal, and we'll know when it's safe to come back home again too, right? So, and again, it's going to be kind of highly unlikely that, you're ever going to be in a situation where even if you egress out of the location that you're in, you're going to probably get someplace where there's going to be television working or something like that, and you're going to be able to keep up with the local news. But again, why inundate your family and friends where they may not be prepared for you to come that time? But you've all got 72 hours to take care of yourselves, so you're not going to overwhelm anybody there, and you don't have to go out with the masses trying to get prescriptions, for instance, or to go out and get groceries or anything to that nature. Gas is one of those things where you can keep that in a shed, and then you could move with a little bit of reserve of gasoline or diesel if that's certainly what you're running. And again, storage on top of that. If you can store that outside of the vehicle, I would suggest doing that at any given way. You can do that for sure. So like I said, I wanted to touch base with that. I think that's really super important, without a doubt. It doesn't take a lot, right? But it's like anything, you got to do it, right? So anyway, hopefully that helps out everybody there. Again, we could and make sure that everybody is okay, right? Speak to your family, especially young kids. Reassuring is a big thing. Reassuring that everything's going to be okay, right? I said, if they say, yeah, but the house is full of water, it's like, don't worry, this has happened before in the world, right? And everybody keeps on keeping on. So make sure that they're okay, that they stay happy as they can be, and make sure that you remind them. This is probably a good time to talk to people about that. Stuff is just stuff, right? It's all replaceable, for the most part. Memories are harder to replace, and stuff, we get that, and pictures and so on. If it means a lot to you, get a copy of that, put it into your kit. So that's the takeaway. Forest fire, again, comes to my mind, right? So like I said, it's a good topic. I'll probably leave it there for now. Just a quick podcast, just to remind everybody. This is a good reminder, and it's happening right now to a lot of good people. And at this time, 3,600 people without power. A few of those people will come back online again. So again, the storm has ended, and they're now digging themselves out. So like I said, they won't be needing a 72-hour kit. There could be a few that will, though, right? But again, it goes to show you it can happen. It can happen. Even when we see it coming, it can be a little overwhelming when it does. So till next time, folks, take care. Consider everything. Echo, did you like the show? This has been a Rush Creek production.